Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 8th annual UAGC Early Childhood Conference. Today, the session you chose to attend is You Can Learn Everything Outside That You Can Learn Inside. Jennifer McCarville is our presenter today. She's the founder and director of Marvelously Made School, founder Save Child Movement, and I am going to give her the proper introduction that she deserves. Jennifer is the founder and director of Marvelously Made School and founder of the Save Children movement. With over 30 years of experience in early childhood education, Jennifer is an engaging and sought after speaker, having presented on a wide range of topics, including children's emotional and physical needs, best educational practices, and all things parenting. In 2010, Jennifer opened the doors to Marvelously Made School. Since that day, the school has grown from one classroom to a campus with 6 buildings, and from a preschool to a school that now educates children through 8th grade. Along the way, Jennifer and her school have been recognized for their tremendous impact on education as a play advocate by the International Play Association, as one of the 5 finalists in Texas for the HEB Excellence in Education Awards. I think you are really going to enjoy this presentation, and I know I am super excited.
Thank you so much. I'm excited too.
All right. Moving on, we kindly request your attention for a brief moment in the spirit of transparency and the utmost respect for our community. We have some information we'd like you to read on this disclaimer slide. By taking a moment to read through this disclaimer, you will empower yourself with important information regarding the boundaries of our knowledge sharing environment. Okay, and on the next slide, you're also going to be able to read through this disclaimer, and then together we're going to embark upon some exciting topics in early childhood education. And Jennifer, I am on the edge of my seat. I'm super excited, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to share with everyone today about outdoor classrooms. And I really appreciate this opportunity. And as we go through this presentation today, I want you to know that, first of all the photos that you're going to see are at our school, Marvelously Made, the School for Young Children. We're in Helotes, Texas. And we did start the school in 2010. And outdoor classrooms have always been important to us. We know that anything children can do can be done outside as well as inside. And so, even though we've developed over the years these beautiful spaces that I'm going to share with you, the important thing is that we understand the basic elements of what children need outside, and that we are dedicated to providing them with environments that meet those developmental needs so that they can thrive. So, every child needs an outdoor classroom, and we're going to learn more about that as we go through the presentation. One of the big reasons outdoor classrooms are so important for children is that, as you can see here on the screen, it gives children an opportunity to move big. Children need to move big before they move small. And what we see oftentimes is children spending a lot of time inside in small areas where they can't just simply logistically move big. So when children are outside, you can see they can climb tire towers and they can jump across saucers like they are in these pictures here. They can really use their bodies in those big ways. As they continue to develop, then they use their bodies in more fine motor ways and more controlled ways. But the importance of being able to develop those large motor muscles and skills is just cannot be overlooked. Here you can see some children moving big as they battle with these foam noodles. So those pool noodles that you can get everywhere are a great addition to an outdoor classroom. You can see on the right-hand side here that we have cut them down halfway so that the children can control them a little bit better. But we also, as you can see on the left-hand side, have the long full-size noodle for the children to learn how to control as well. This big body play outside and this rough and tumble play, it's just so valuable for children in so many ways. I want to give you a few tips about this kind of rough and tumble play. We always want to create the safest possible environments for children, of course. And we know how important it is for them to be able to battle. They are just wired to do that. They enjoy the sensory feedback. They enjoy the banter that they have between groups of children or individual children as they decide how hard they're going to hit, when they need to pull back a little bit. So that regulation is so valuable, a skill, and they definitely can learn it through things like this. A few of the tips that I have for you are create a space for rough and tumble play and make sure it's a space large enough for really big rough and tumble play. So if you find that the children outside are starting to battle in some way or wrestle or tumble, etc., I'd say, oh, hey, tell me what your plan is. Tell me what's going on. And then I would help them find a place where they could do that safely, explaining that to them like, oh, right here's a little crowded. I'm afraid if you fall down, you could knock that over or what have you. Let's find a place where you have plenty of room. Designate the space. Okay, before you go, I want to talk about what you should do if somebody doesn't want to play this way anymore. And at that point, we have a conversation. At our school, stop means stop. We start that from the time the children are 3 years old. Stop means stop. We'll talk about it afterwards. But once we hear that word, it's really important to stop. And so once play gets a little bit too much, or you just change your mind, you say stop, everybody has to stop so that you can remove yourself and someone else can come in and play. So that's a very firm boundary that the children exercise. And then we also want them to know, of course, we do try to remind them to aim for the shoulders and below, but we understand that may not always happen. And even the shoulders and below could hurt if you get hit too hard or something happens, you fall down. So we also want them to know that you could get hurt if you play this way. Are you prepared for that? Is that a chance you want to take? And so once we've set all of those boundaries, then we can just step outside of that ring and allow the children to do what they need to do. And it really is a cool thing, the way they look out for each other, how thoughtful they are, because we've gone through that process. And pool noodles, I think, belong in every outdoor classroom. So here's what we've always said here. You can do everything outside that you can do inside. So these outdoor spaces are designed for having all the fine motor, science, all the academic experiences outside, as well as you could have them inside. And in our school, these types of experiences are set up in both places every day. So those children who want to go inside have that opportunity to develop the same skills as the children who are outside. So let's talk a little bit about reading and writing in the outdoor classroom. As you can see here, we have a teacher sitting on a bench reading to the children. We have baskets of books everywhere so that children can be read to. And we really want to make sure that we are building that rich language and those literacy skills. And so books are always available. They're available everywhere. You can see in this picture that there's a child enjoying a book there, just sitting in the mulch. They can carry the books all around. We want them to be used and we want them to be appreciated. The children take good care of the books. They enjoy them. And so it's never a concern for us. Every once in a while, you have a casualty or two. I call that the cost of doing business when you support the learning of children. And then here on the right-hand side, you can see this teacher. Someone brought her a book and she's just sitting down on the deck there reading to 3 children. And they can stay as long as they're interested in the story. You know, that story time is so precious. If you start reading a book and the children are not asking questions and engaged within a page or two, you might not be reading the right book. We want that love of learning to be instilled in them, and they need to be part of the story exchange. So you can tell the teacher there has paused here and she's listening to what the children are contributing to the story. And that's so easily done in an outdoor space when the other children are deeply engaged in their work. Here you can see a child who's got her clipboard with her paper attached, and she's using a colored pencil, just sitting there by a tree, using the roots to support her like a little table, and she's drawing outside. We have clipboards and paper and colored pencils and markers outside everywhere. Um, and by that I don't mean they're scattered. I mean they're in little nooks, just drawing the children in. So reading and writing, just like inside, can happen outside as well. Let's gather. We call our circle times gathering times. During COVID, we were 100% outside with our children. And so we moved our gathering times for all of our classrooms outside. And we find it very important to create attractive, cozy spaces for the children. And you can see here at this gathering time, the children would, in theory, sit on these logs if they didn't want to sit in the mulch, or they can sit on the mulch. We also provide them with some little mats to sit on. So they can do that as well if they aren't keen on the feeling of the mulch. But we have our gathering time outside every single day for our preschool class. And then on pretty common occasions for other age groups as well. Whoops, sorry about that. Here we go. Here you can see the children having gathering time in our preschool. And you can see the teacher there sharing a book. She's sitting up on the platform of our hillside. And the children just gather around there listening and participating and dancing and singing. There's just music, everything you would do in your gathering time or circle time inside, we do outside. So I want to encourage you to do that on a beautiful day wherever you are. If you have the space to do that, just find a little space anywhere, because being outside just immerses these children in nature, and there's something so calming about it. And so they are attentive. Sometimes we have children that aren't developmentally ready necessarily for gathering time. Sometimes we have children that, just because of what's happened in their day, are not in the mindset to sit through gathering time. And since we're outside, they have the freedom and flexibility to do that. So there are always teachers around the outside of the group here that are ready to support those children as well. So making sure you have another teacher in your classroom is always, always going to be more helpful, so that that person can meet the needs of those children, and gathering time can go on as usual for the rest of the crew. Art. Art is so important for the children. We know creating just comes from their soul. There's something just therapeutic about it. There's something adventurous about it. There's something powerful about creating something on a piece of paper that was blank. And we want to give the children art experiences that they can really get into. So you can see the child on the left here truly has done that. That was an experience where they had big pieces of cardboard, and they took some paint over off of, we have easels that are set up outside permanently, and they always have paint. So she gathered the paint and went over and started painting the cardboard. She was joined by lots of friends, and they ended up rolling in the car on the cardboard and had the best time. They were sliding with each other and holding hands. And then you can see on the right here, we had a table just covered with bubble wrap. And as they went through their school day, they would paint various layers of blue and green on there. And this guy right here is making a print of his bubble painting. So we tend to put some really big art experiences outside, because of course we have the inside classroom, and there we can do those smaller, maybe a little more contained experiences. But again, we want these youngest children especially to be moving big. So they do that outside and create in all kinds of ways. We share with the parents before school starts, before they even enroll their children, that this art experiences these children have and the play experiences they have outside as well as inside could dirty their clothes. So I tell them to dress their child as they would dress if they were going to paint a room at their house, and also send changes of clothes. And we just prepare them for the possibility of this. The children don't even wear smocks here, because we want them to jump in and take a risk. And smocks also kind of slow you down just in your movement in general. So you can see some other ways the children are creating with art here. We have collage on pumpkins. We try all kinds of canvases. As you can see in the middle picture, the little guy there is painting a dinosaur. They can bring things over to the painting table. They can change up what we've offered. We want them to try out their ideas. And then on the far right, this little fella here was practicing some spin art options. So the children will put a variety of things in these spinners and drip paint on them, and then they will spin them and see how it turns out. Here, he was using a coffee filter. And here's another way that we give an invitation outside for painting, just wrapping the tree with bubble wrap. And this is large bubble wrap. So they get both the large and the small and see how it interacts with a paintbrush or whatever they choose to use to paint it. And they can always make prints. We share that printmaking skill with them very early so that they can create for the joy of creating. And then if they want something to take home, they have it. But it's so about the process for these children. They need the experiences. And that's our job, right? To create these environments where the experiences are rich and irresistible. And just one more to share with you, creating all the time. There's another pumpkin exploration. The children were pouring paint on those pumpkins. And we do try to be cautious and responsible with the materials. There are times when it just kind of takes a life of its own. And with the creating, and our job is to support that. If something just really seems, wow, that was a lot, we can't continue to use those kinds of materials, we allow the children to be there in the moments. And then at the end of the day, we kind of pivot and try to create new ways for them to practice that again the next day. Shaving cream is always a big hit. And what a great picture there in the middle where she just had the moment of clapping her hands together and getting that impact all over her of that action. And then on the far right-hand side, we've extended paint rollers so that the children there are getting all kinds of benefit from rolling these long extension poles and paint and putting that roller on canvases there. And they're developing depth perception and motor coordination. And also, there's something so fun about bonding with a peer, doing a really unique and unusual experience. So there will be lots of, remember when we did that? A really important thing to point out in outdoor classrooms or indoor classrooms is that children need to do things again and again and again. And that's how they master things. And children who might be a little cautious at first can kind of observe, and when they're ready, they can jump in. We are able, because we have a good amount of space in our outdoor areas, we are able to offer the same things repeatedly as long as the children are enjoying them. So if you can do that in your outdoor space, I really want to encourage you in that. Math and science outside, math and science and art. And, all of these things are so intertwined. And those academic skills are so intertwined in the early years, which is something that we just love. So here we have explorations of pumpkins. The children have then, we've cut them open to see what's going on inside. And in these photos, you can see the child on the left-hand side is at what we call our potions table. So, of course, that table introduces chemical reactions to the children with baking soda and vinegar always. This was a good example of something we put out just for a little while that the children just never got tired of. So we add other things for the children to explore chemical reactions. We add things like shaving cream and glitter and salt and paint and colored water. And the children are continually exploring what happens when materials interact with one another. And we do use the science vocabulary for that. We'll predict with them. For one thing, we go through the scientific process a lot of times with them. What do you think is going to happen? Let's test it out. Oh, wow. What did happen? What do you think will happen next? Were you right or were you wrong about your expectation? But we use the the science word, that's a chemical reaction. So we're just meeting so many of the standards that we are required to incorporate in our classrooms. They're really happening through all of these experiences. We have to look with fresh eyes and see the value of these experiences. Here on the right-hand side, you can see that this little one has found a critter. We do lots of interacting with critters outside, and the children just really learn to be kind to them. They learn empathy. We'll talk to them about the animals respecting them and trusting them. And we explore them. We do have places that they can make habitats temporarily, but we want to nurture that mutual respect for nature. And so we make sure that these critters are always put back in their natural habitats before we go home for the day. But just look at her face. So often, the way adults respond or talk about bugs, critters, animals, that's what causes children to be afraid, to be unsure of those things. Of course, some children are just wired that way from the beginning, but so many of them are not. And you can see just her adoration for bugs right here. So precious. Bubbles are another wonderful science experience out in the outdoor classroom as well. One of the great things about following bubbles is it's so good for developing visual tracking for reading. And of course, blowing bubbles, it's so great for developing their mouth, for also talking for speech. And here you can see on the left-hand side where we're using hula hoops, or the children are, just those large motor and coordination skills that are being developed as they do that. And I love the little guy on the left who is practicing blowing the bubble as another child actually pulls it out of the bubble solution. So fun. You can see our teacher on the right-hand side. What she's doing there is she was sharing with the child a new way to make bubbles by scooping them up and blowing through your hands as you hold them. And just so many new eye-opening creative things saying, what if, which is science, right? What if we do it this way? Math, of course, there are unit blocks outside and wood to work with, all kinds of things to build with. Um, you can see over here one-to-one correspondence happening on the right-hand side with the ice tray, and they're putting a little bit in each one. We like to use pipettes to develop their pincer grasp, their fine motor skills, demi-tasse spoons, the little bitty ones. That one looks more like a standard one in the photo, but we also add those little bitty ones. They're just so precious for their little fingers to get coordinated, so valuable. Tiny shakers for glitter. If you're a glitter lover, and even if you're not, they're glitter lovers. So one way to incorporate glitter outside, if you don't want to have it shaken all over the place, is to mix it into paint. Um, we do that a lot in our outdoor classroom, and then the children get the shimmer and the glitter that they love. On the left-hand side, building with the blocks there, creating a fence for her little puppy dogs, her figurines there, and just exploring with building. And that, of course, is the mathematical thinking that goes with the problem solving and the building. That is the core in the preschool years, definitely through kindergarten, right? And here's some more math happening everywhere. You can see in the middle picture, non-standard measurements there. They were measuring how tall the plant had grown with Unifix cubes. On the left, building with huge blocks, building as high as he is, measurement going on there. And then shape and line on the right-hand side as we added the geo boards outside. So they can do that as well. Connecting with nature, so important. We really want the children to love being in nature. Um, there's lots of planting that can happen outside. With our youngest ones, we plant all edible things just in case, because we want them to be able to explore freely, but also taking the time to observe the cycle of the plant and to and by drawing with our older children, they're really paying attention to what's happening with the plants. So just encouraging these moments of connection with nature, of paying attention to what's happening around us. We know that we can only really love and protect something that we understand. I know there's some great quote about that. And it's just so true. So creating these spaces outside where they're truly engaged with the natural world is just such a wonderful education in itself for how we continue to care for the earth. And there's some more critters. There are critters like on the left-hand side, the little lizard there. They just another example of children loving critters, just delighted that lizard would be climbing onto her necklace there. And on the right-hand side, you can see pictures of, we have some animals that we've incorporated in our outdoor classroom. We do, of course, have pets inside as well, but we have two alpacas and two sheep that you can see here in the picture. And the children spend time in the animal yards. They're able to learn how to interact with them, how to read their expressions. They're able to see by the way the animals behave. We'll point out to them, oh, do you see how her ears are back? She's not feeling very safe right now. So we're not going to pet her because we need to respect that. And then pointing that out again and again helps children develop empathy and awareness socially, and that can translate directly to other people. So, what's happening when that person looks at me like that? Oh, that might say that they need a minute, or maybe I should ask if they're okay. And so, these animals, whether you have big ones or small ones, as long as you can have a variety, which is a wonderful opportunity if you can. So children can interact with different ones. So beneficial in the outdoor classroom and the indoor classroom, of course. Of course, social skills and emotional competencies, anytime children are able to interact with one another, you're going to have the best opportunities for the children to learn these skills. And outside with the appropriate setups and the freedom to explore and play and interact, it really gives children beautiful opportunities for developing those skills. You can see on the left-hand side, these children have worked together to create a little hammock for the fella in the top. And underneath, she's using her feet to move that hammock they've created. Now, in this situation, we did have a teacher, of course, a teacher's always close by, who checked it with them. What's your plan? Oh, okay. When you're finished, will you let me know before you climb on? I want to make sure that it's tight enough so that it'll hold you. And so working with them through that, and then the teacher testing it before the children were able to utilize it. But being able to support them for their problem solving ideas, just their creative endeavors, it's really a beautiful thing to create these outdoor spaces where they really can think and problem solve and create their own challenges. And here on the right hand side, you can see the social interactions here. Leadership, collaboration, who's going to be in charge, who's going to play what role. Let's go get these billabos that the children are sitting in and using the spool for their food so that they could create an outdoor picnic of some kind. We don't always know exactly what they're doing, but we do know they're learning and we trust that process. So it's really awesome for the children to own their learning. And here you go, just figuring out how to navigate the spatial awareness, the control, the looking out for each other. This girl who's maneuvering the trike there, she's got a big responsibility, but just pure delight. Those large motor skills and social emotional skills always being practiced and exercised when they're outside. Loose parts. So, a lot of us know about loose parts, a theory that was established in the early 70s. This loose parts theory that you should have things that can be used in different ways, that can be broken down and reconstructed, things that have no singular purpose. So, I encourage you to have lots of loose parts. Having children have a space outside with a yard and lots of loose parts that aren't expensive is really the most beneficial outdoor classroom you can give them, in my opinion. They need to be able to tinker and create and build what they want to build. And we've seen some examples of that already in some of the slides I've shared with you. But here you can see they've taken those tires that we saw in a tower in a previous photo. And on the left hand side, they've created this pathway, maybe a little obstacle course that they're walking through here. On the right hand side, there were lots of boxes outside. The teachers left some duct tape out there, and the children have created with those. Looks like they've made a tunnel, possibly, or a train, and they can move them around and make something different with them later. Everything becomes a loose part in our outdoor classroom. On the left-hand side with the slides, you can see those bouncy balls, those hippity hop balls that are made for bouncing on, and then stomp boards that are made for putting a beanbag on one side and stomping it up into the air, which the children do that, and that's great for motor coordination and visual tracking, of course. But they're using them in a different way, filling the slide with them. But you can see how they've sorted, they've categorized these things. These are great math skills. They've used one side of the double slide to put all the bouncy balls, and then they've grouped the stomp boards together. We have two different kinds. And so you can see these skills as you train yourself to just really observe, make notes outside of what the children are doing. And then you go back and you can tie those into your standards, and you can see how much you're accomplishing when we give the children the right environments and we're able to trust them to use those environments. So it's just such a cool thing. On the right hand side, those tires in play again. I happen to know these children right here. They created a train, and they took a pull ladder and turned it on its side to be kind of the controls. And then each of the tires was a different train car. So again, those loose parts, able to turn them around and use them differently again and again. Just the most important thing is that not nothing has one singular purpose if we can help it. Water in the outdoor classroom. Water plays so important. Talk about sciencing right there too. So much with water going on, buoyancy and channeling water here is a great example of that. Um, this was some aluminum foil the children were using for something else. And one of them asked me if they could have a piece. Of course you can. So I gave them a piece, and they tinkered with it and messed about with it for a while, and then ended up lining their river here in the sand pit because they realized that the water kept getting soaked in. But when they put the foil there, it would hold the water. What a great science exploration, right? And they own that learning, so it will stick. So that's a great thing. You can see more water play. Best thing, if you want a lot of water play in your outdoor area, the best thing we've added to ours are in that center picture right there, a water barrel. We fill it up with water fresh every morning, sometimes twice a day if they use it all, but they have access to so much water and they have important work to do. So we make sure they have that material right there. And of course, we never use rainwater in it, but we do clean it out and bleach it once a week. So that's a little important tip, in my opinion. And then on the left-hand side, just taking some gutters from your local home store and cutting those down to different sizes. You need to make sure that you soften those corners a little bit. You want to trim those down so they're curved and maybe file them a little bit. And then some of them drill holes in just to really mess with what they're doing. And that gives them a whole different science problem to solve, right? Um, but here they've used those gutters, and they've created boats out of some wood, and they're floating their boats there and also floating aluminum foil on the other side. You can see on the right hand side, that's actually a fire pit that we've used as a sensory tub filled with water and babies and soap. You got to wash those babies. So it's important work that these children are doing outside that are really serving them well in their overall development. Sand, one more element that you must have, sand and water, so important. Um, there are those gutters being used in a new way. You can see all these loose parts. So just in the background of this picture there, you can see that there are just some empty plastic pots for plants. I think an important thing to point out here is that it's more important to have a few things that you have a lot of than to have a lot of different things, especially with younger children. They don't really need a lot of different things as much as they need to be able to share the things that they have. So we have a lot of dump trucks and a lot of gutters. And you can see in this photo also, we have some of those plastic crates, and we have a lot of those as well. And we would rather add, when we have a lot of something, add the whole thing rather than having a variation. Sometimes that just causes more stress for the children, and we definitely don't want to create obstacles for them. Kitchens, we don't even call them mud kitchens because we never know what's going to be in them. Here is our kitchen in the center photo here. This one was actually built by my husband. But of course, there are commercial mud kitchens you can buy. You can put out pots and pans, and they can make their own kitchen like we saw earlier in the sand pit. But they're using mulch and mud and sand, and they're creating their own fun there with that. I suggest you place a mud kitchen, an outdoor kitchen, either in your sand area if possible or beside it so that the children can move sand back and forth because they're going to do that anyway. So I actually would recommend if you have enough space, you put it in your sand pit because that will just allow the children to keep the sand in the same general area. And that's the big thing about creating spaces for children is that we control the environment. And then we can allow the children to do what they need to do and learn. So you've got to be thinking through from beginning to end. What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? What are they going to need? And that ties perfectly into being ready. We've got to be ready for the children. We have everything set out for the children when they come in the morning. So this is an actual, on the left-hand side, you can see our potions table set up with shaving cream, and there's some colored sand and colored water, and it's ready for the children. And then on the right-hand side, once the children get here, everything changes. They delve in and it starts morphing and changing to what they see and what they have to produce and explore. And so we have tap shoes, and this is really our entire dress up area right here. Going back to have a lot of a few things that can be used in a wide variety of ways. So we don't have a firefighter costume, but we have materials that the children could use to make a firefighter costume. They can also make an astronaut costume or whatever they want to make with these things. And children exercise their imaginations when they have environments like this. And that is so important for academic success, right? Problem solving, being able to navigate social situations. It's just so important that they have experience with that. You can see here lots of tutus, lots of capes in the same colors. You know, we'd rather have a bunch of green and a bunch of yellow and orange, they're reversible, and a bunch of blue than have one of each color, because then children tend to be tense about that. I wanted the red one. I wanted the green one. So this controls the environment to set children up for success. Tap shoes, easy peasy. We just asked parents to donate tap shoes that their children had outgrown. We had one teacher that went to some thrift stores and found some, and also connected with our local dance studio and said, "Can we put a box here for people to donate?" And they did. So they absolutely love these tap shoes. It's so fun to watch them use them and wear them and dance, and they like to hear the sounds. What a wonderful experience. Being ready, just setting it up in a different way. These babies are usually in a basket, but sometimes you just wrap them all up and you put them on the couch and they're waiting for the children, and that just stimulates a whole nother level of play. There's the sand pit. I want to encourage you to make the sand area as big as possible. Um, of course, it doesn't have to be big. when our school started. We had a very small sand area, but a pit rather than a box is always recommended when it comes to what I believe children will thrive in. It's just an awesome way for them to spread out what they need and everybody can do what they need to do. And when the children get there, it looks inviting. It's not perfect, but it doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be inviting. And so sometimes we'll put a design in the sand. The teachers will move a few things around so that each morning it stimulates a little bit different experience for the children. And being ready for the mess is important. So you'll see here, these tubs were actually, we have tubs set up like this on a regular basis for when the children paint dinosaurs, or sometimes they'll bring over the dump trucks from the sand pit and they'll want to paint those. And we also incorporate the cleanup. So they'll naturally go to scrub them down. And here, these children scrub themselves down. So that was a beautiful thing. We have towels hanging everywhere. We are able to take the children, because we do have that additional teacher, take them in groups to change clothes when they're finished. Um, but they're so responsible. They're very naturally responsible in a lot of ways. And then here you can see in the front of this photo, just a tree stump is what was used for the children. And you could simply have that without the kitchen at all, like I said, and have pots and things just lying around waiting for them. Well, let's talk about the weather. So, being outdoors in all kinds of weather. We've all heard that, right? There's no bad weather, only bad clothing or wrong clothing, what have you. And it's a little bit of a challenge sometimes, but you got to really embrace the weather. So that means you've got to be ready for the weather as well. Here you can see on the left-hand side, we actually have built fires outside on super cold days. We live in South Texas, so we don't have a lot of super cold days. But when we do, I mean, it's earth-shattering. So we have to make sure the children are dressed in layers and which their parents are so great about. And so, with a few guidelines and explanations for the children, they're able to enjoy sitting around the fire and singing songs with one of their teachers. And in the middle, you can see the little guy with the umbrellas. So we do have umbrellas at school. Umbrellas are tools, but here he's getting a little creative with them. So if it does rain and it's not lightning, we can stay outside and we have things like umbrellas. He's wearing his rain boots. So his mom sent him ready for the rain. And then on the far right-hand side, very cold. We keep extra gloves and hats and blankets outside in the outdoor classroom. And we are on those super cold days, always sure that the children do have the option to go inside and warm up. And sometimes we even have to make them go inside and warm up. Sometimes they haven't quite learned to listen to their bodies about being cold, but just really genuinely be prepared for the weather. We are outside unless it is lightning outside or unless it is windy, bone chillingly windy, cold outside. So, and you can just really experience life so differently when you're out in different types of weather. You don't have to have that weather chart anymore. What would you wear if? What's happening? Look how the bear is dressed. What kind of weather is it? Or, oh, it's hot outside today. They're living it every day. They're living it. They're learning, genuinely learning about weather. So, risky or dangerous? This is a big question. And I know there's a session on this by Deb Lawrence, and she's fantastic. But we want to make sure that what's happening anywhere for children does encourage risk taking, because learning is all about taking risks. But we do want to make sure it's not dangerous. So there are so many things we have to do behind the scenes before the children come, even to make sure that it is as safe as possible. And then we have to trust the children. So, having these moments where they do get to literally soar like this, he's ready for this. And we learn to trust that process. And we do that through a lot of talking to the children beforehand. You can see them kind of climbing up high here. Well, these children, their bodies are ready for it. So there are a few things. We never put a child in a position that they can't put themselves. And that includes not pushing them on the swings. We trust that when their bodies are ready to swing, they will swing. Pushing on swings is something that happens at home, maybe, but at school, we'll say, "Have you tried on your belly?" Something like that to encourage them. And then when they learn to swing, it's glorious. They own it, and it's so exciting and thrilling for them. But also these children who are climbing on the left, she's climbed up on one of our we call it a boat structures, and on the right hand side, this one has climbed up to the top of the swing set, and so she can't. We're not too worried about her because we've been watching her. She's a climber. She knows how to use her body. She's been practicing this. We start out with them very young saying, "Oh, what's your plan? How does that feel under your feet? Do you feel safe? What are you going to do next?" And there is a teacher right there. There were actually several teachers when this child was doing this for the first time. And there's always a teacher if she repeats it. Another interesting thing is when you help children listen to their bodies and navigate that feedback, um, they won't do things their bodies aren't ready to do. I find that children tend to get hurt when adults are constantly controlling what they can and can't do. And so they don't know how to listen to their bodies. They don't know how to respond to the feedback that they're getting. And these children do know how to do that. So while it's risky, it's not dangerous because we've given them the skills to interpret their environments, and there are adults very close by. There will be times, of course, that a teacher might say, "You know what? I'm not comfortable with that today, so I'm going to ask you not to do it. And let's talk about it some more. Maybe we can try another day." So that's a possibility, but we've got to educate ourselves about what's really dangerous. So, and one of the ways that we can be so successful is not only by educating ourselves, but by educating the parents of the children in our schools, in our programs. That's vitally important. I mentioned earlier that I talk to the parents when they tour the school about dressing your child like you would if you were painting a room. And we do talk about the children really having adventurous and risky play that they own. We continually educate the parents throughout the year. We have a few parent education nights, and the teachers are always at those events, each classroom sharing what the children are doing, letting the parents experience it. We have talks about topics that parents can ask questions. So, really, I think that one of the biggest keys for us to be successful in creating these outdoor spaces for children is to make sure their parents understand. Parents want good things for their children. They just need to understand why we're doing what we're doing. And when we are creating environments that honor children, the children truly thrive. And that's what parents want. They want children to be competent, be capable, love learning. And that's really what happens when we create spaces like these that follow the developmental needs of the children. If you want to learn more about what we're doing here, we have a Save Childhood movement, and we are actually having a conference at our school. I know this is airing in September, and this conference is in October. It's the 24th and 25th. Not the 25th and 25th. I see that. But it's the 24th and 25th. You can go to savechildhood.org and find out more about what we're doing, what you are doing to save childhood for children. And if you decide you can slide into that conference, then you'll get to see the school. You'll get to have more trainings and conversations about creating outdoor and indoor spaces for children, about ways to support their social emotional development, and how to implement all of those best practices in an outdoor classroom as well as an indoor classroom. So I'm so grateful that you spent this time with me today, that you let me share with you what we've learned in the last 14 years and what we're continuing to grow for children in Marvelously Made School. And check out our Facebook page and our website. You can just Google Marvelously Made School and also savechildhood.org. And you can we can share those resources with you. That's our heart's desire, right? All of us to support each other and continue evolving our practices to really meet the developmental needs of children. And so I wish you the best of luck in doing that. Thank you for your time again with me. Marvelously Made, the School for Young Children is the place where all of these photos that we looked at were taken. And so check us out and we'll hopefully we'll meet in person one day. So have a fantastic school year.
Jennifer, that was fantastic. Everybody, go check out another session. Thanks.